Well, thanks for watching Numbskull News, and today I'm going to get back into this college realignment stuff, but it's not going to be the usual kind of video. I'm going to talk about the media's influence, and especially here on YouTube. See, the way it usually works, you got your big networks like Espn and Fox that are disseminating crap or sometimes breaking news, but they have sources. Now, you got to consider the sources. A lot of these guys are Pac-12 guys who are trying to save their conference. ACC guys who are scared to death of Clemson and Florida State leaving. So there's a lot of agendas within all this crap. Eventually, all that kind of information matriculates its way down to these small YouTubers, and that's what I'm talking about today. So as an example, I'm going to use a channel called Gold and Blue Dude, who's a big-time West Virginia homer. Nothing wrong with being a homer. A lot of people try to shit on that. He's actually pretty well informed, especially about what's going on with his school, and but has a real good handle, I feel, about what's going on in college football, or everyone else's situation. The coaches, how the coaches are doing, how other programs are doing. He's pretty good at that, and you don't have to be some kind of damn professional to get that kind of information. If you have interest and you spend a lot of time, digging into other programs in college football. I'm not saying you're going to be an expert, but you could be pretty damn knowledgeable, and the Gold and Blue Dude is. So with a lot of these small YouTubers, you're trying to make videos just like everybody else. They're trying to come up with content, and unfortunately with this college realignment, there's a hell of a lot of content, and a lot of it's bullshit. You have to use some logic, and the number one logic, of course, is money, because money is driving all this stuff. As long as you know that, you can disseminate a lot of bullshit, a lot of fan crap out there, or a lot of people that have their own personal agendas and are injecting sources into whatever stories. So think about it. If you're a Pac-12 source, you're really interested in saving your job. You don't want your conference to just fade away into oblivion. So it might behoove you to start planting stories out there trying to help save your conference. And look, I'm not picking on a small YouTuber like Gold and Blue Dude. He's got nearly 9,000 subscribers, which isn't bad. It isn't bad for a guy who mainly focuses, his niche is West Virginia. All right, no problem. I mean, hell, he's kicking my ass. I got less than 400 subscribers. If he's small, I'm microscopic. So I'm not picking on the guy at all. I got a lot of respect for the stuff he's putting out there. However, you can tell there's, he's kind of feeding into some of the bullshit, and I don't blame him. Hey, look, this is what small YouTubers do, right? You kind of get all this information, and then you put it out there on your channel and put your own spin and your opinion on it. Unfortunately, sometimes that comes with some pretty bad opinions because people don't use some basic logic when disseminating stories from professional people. And I'm a little guilty of that too. I'm not saying I'm perfect shit. But it is a problem here on YouTube that I've noticed, because ever since the college football expansion stuff has been breaking, I've been really interested in that, and I'm not a huge college football fan. I pay attention to it because, I play fantasy football, and I want to know what rookies are probably going to do well. But I really don't have any axe to grind. But this whole stuff has really been fascinating to me, especially since Texas and Oklahoma left the Big 12. Now I'm really interested in the Big 12. Because I really don't like Texas and Oklahoma. They're boring, But now the Big 12, anything can happen, and it's exciting, So I've really been paying attention to it, and I've even made a few videos about it. So I'm going to kind of get into the small YouTuber space. So let's get started with Mr. Gold and Blue Dude, and I'm going to start with something that we can agree on. I want to start in a positive aspect before I start kicking them in the nuts a little bit.
Top 10 teams the Big 12 should consider in expansion. Number 10, Memphis.
Hey, I've been touting Memphis for a long time, so we agree on that.
And they have a great TV market, plus FedEx backs them. So those are two pluses for Memphis.
See, I didn't even think of the FedEx thing. Good job, Gold and Blue Dude.
Number 9, San Diego State.
Now, I don't, okay, a lot of people have been, touting San Diego State, so I don't have a problem with it.
Number 8, Boise State, another Group of 5 team, and I would say they are the highest Group of 5 brand left available.
And I would absolutely agree with that. I've been touting Boise State, wanting them into the Big 12. since this whole damn thing started.
Number 7, Stanford. Hey, finally a Power 5 team I'm talking about. And they're in the state of California, so you would have a footprint in the state of California.
Stanford's one I didn't think about.
Number 6, Colorado.
Basically, the rest of that top 10 is pretty much the teams everyone's been talking about, right? Colorado, Utah, Arizona, Arizona State, Washington, Oregon. All right, so we get where we're going with that, and I agree pretty much on his list. I don't think there's anything I would disagree with, and actually Stanford is not one I've actually really thought of, and I wouldn't be opposed to Stanford coming to the Big 12. I think that could work for certain things. So you see there, it doesn't have to always be negative, but we are going to get to the negative right now.
Pac-12 lost USC and UCLA to the Big 10, and then Fox announced, hey, we aren't even bidding on the Pac-12 anymore. I didn't think that was a big deal. I was like, yeah, that's smart. The Pac-12's falling apart. You don't want to waste your money. That's a good move, Fox. Turns out that might be terrible news, because now from what I'm hearing, and it's being reported by major sources.
You see there major sources, right? You got the usual fare like Sports Illustrated and The Athletic and things like that. And I'm not saying these guys do bad jobs up there, but they got to fill content even more so than a YouTuber. They got to keep pumping out stories, and this college realignment thing has huge amounts of interest, so they got to keep pumping out the stories to fill the demand. And a lot of times it's a lot of horse shit, a lot of shit thrown against the wall. That's all. That's basically all it is.
That ESPN is the main contender to pick up the Pac-12 TV rights.
Well, right now ESPN is the only contender.
This is not good for the Big 12. This is not good for Fox. Fox should get their hands back into the Pac-12, because here's what's going to happen if they don't. ESPN could grab the rights to the Pac-12, right? And then the Pac-12 is solidified. Nobody else is going to leave the Pac-12. And then the Big 12 is now left on an island. They have Fox, everybody else has ESPN. This is not good for the Big 12. And now what ESPN can do is a bunch of things. I don't know exactly what they will do or what they would do, but these are the things that they could do. So they could pick up the TV rights to the Pac-12, shut down the Pac-12 network, and kind of consolidate it into the ACC network and create a coast-to-coast conference, and have leverage to negotiate and tempt teams from the Big 12 to join either the Pac-12 or the ACC.
Well, that's one of the problems, is getting Oregon and Washington on board and getting them to commit long-term to the Pac-12, which is right now the Pac-10, and that's going to be one of the serious hurdles about getting a good TV deal from ESPN, which isn't going to happen, especially if you're the only damn bidder. And not to mention the time zone out there sucks, right? I mean, overnight football, woo. The only reason ESPN is even, interested in the Pac-12, because they do want some late night football games, but they're not going to pay out the ass for it, especially when you only got really 2 teams that get decent ratings in Oregon and Washington. That's about it. That's something that's already been kind of debunked, as far as the grant of rights of the ACC. So if they add on any more teams, if they try to merge with the ACC, they got to completely rework the deal ESPN does with the ACC. And if they do that, that may open up the grant of rights, or at least it could open up the possibility for lawsuits from Clemson, from Florida State, Miami, possibly UNC, because if you're going to screw with the TV deal, then there goes your grant of rights, and those teams are free to leave to the SEC or Big Ten. So it's basically cutting off your nose to spite your face at that point. So be very careful when you're counting on stories like that. Just think about the other dominoes that can fall before you start making videos.
And it would tempt Notre Dame to the ACC even more.
How in the hell would that tempt Notre Dame? The most money they will make is in the Big Ten. Period. And now, the guy who mainly covers Notre Dame, he's been there for a long time, he said they would, if there was any conference out there they'd be interested in joining, it would be the ACC, but a big problem with that is a lot of the big teams looking to leave and they're unhappy, like Clemson, like Florida State. So that's going to completely keep Notre Dame out of the ACC. You can hang that shit dead in your ass. That's not going to happen. If they're going to join a conference, it's going to be the Big Ten. And they don't want to do that either. So you don't have... So I don't even know. He keeps thinking that, you know, Notre Dame can squeeze in there. And one of the reasons he keeps thinking he wants to try to, you know, tout up the ACC a little bit because he wants his West Virginia to go to the ACC, which it's not going to happen. The ACC would have already taken West Virginia a long time ago, but you ended up in the Big 12 because you at least wanted to be in a Power 5, you know, conference. And right now you're in the best one, the one that's the most secure. And I don't get the video about, oh, the Big 12 could fall apart because ESPN. Not really.
So ESPN could create their own farming system. Hey, you join the ACC, if you're good enough, eventually we'll bump you up to the SEC.
Now that's a lot of ridiculousness right there. The SEC has already said they're not taking on any more teams. And I'm telling you right now, they will not take on any more teams unless it's a blue blood. So that's, you know, I'm sorry, just because you're doing well at your level does not mean the SEC wants you. And they don't want to cut up another piece of pie for another team. It's about the money, dude. Pay attention to where the money is. And ESPN can't dictate to the SEC how many teams they're going to take. They're going to pay for what they're going to pay for. So they're going to pay right now for the 16 teams they have. And they're going to pay out the asshole for it. And what they cannot do is tell Alabama and Texas and Oklahoma and LSU and Georgia, hey, you got to take a little less so we could put, you know, whoever in. No, that's not going to happen.
There's a war for the Pac-12.
A war for the Pac-12. He's going to have some wrong takes on this part of the video.
Obviously, we know that Fox doesn't want to bid on the Pac-12, but now I'm hearing that they do want the Big 12 and the Pac-12 to merge. So instead of bidding on the Pac-12, they're saying, hey, just merge with the Big 12 and then we'll work out the TV deal.
This part of the video, he's actually reporting some real true stuff. This came out from The Athletic, and there was a whole big article, and they busted down the different, you know, pods the Big 12 could have with a merger with the Big 12, and that they would have to add on a couple other schools, you know, a group of 5 schools to turn it into a 24-team super conference, and all this stuff. Now, of course, the Big 12 have already said no. They've now put the kibosh on it that it's not going to work out business-wise, money-wise for the Big 12 to absorb or combine and have 24 freaking teams. It's just not going to work. And it's not. Because you want to at least make like 50 million a school, 45-ish, somewhere in there. What you don't want is to have 24 teams to try to feed. Because you're not going to get 50 million a school. There's no way, not for 24 teams you're not.
Well, ESPN wants the Pac-12 TV rights outright. Hey, so there's actually a war between Fox and ESPN over the Pac-12. But it's not a bidding war because only ESPN wants the TV rights outright. Fox wants them to merge. So this might actually be up to the Pac-12 teams. Do they want to stay separate, get the TV rights of ESPN, and then try to entice teams over to the Pac-12? I think that's a little bit of a shaky idea right there. That's not guaranteed. Or could they go with Fox and be like, hey, we're just going to merge straight up with the Big 12. We know we're solid. They have a decent TV deal working all the details right now. And that could actually go up if we merge with the Big 12 and we're safe for sure.
Well, like I said, that's part of the story that he did kind of screw up. Unfortunately, this little YouTuber here is that it was never up to the Pac-12. They've been trying to get a merger done with somebody, but, you know, the Big 12 makes a lot of sense. And, you know, Fox could have been, you know, behind the scenes, kind of like, hey, you know, we'd love to work out a deal, but if you could merge with the Big 12, we could really work something out. Now, it's not going to be a ton of money because they're going to invest a shit ton in the Big 10. However, it was never up to the Pac-12 or the Pac-10, whatever it is, whatever you want to call it now. The neutered Pac-12. It was never up to them to merge with the Big 12. It's always been up to the Big 12 whether they want to merge with what's left of the Pac-12. And they've said, no, it doesn't work.
Miami fans have got to be absolutely livid right now. I mean, mad out of their minds. Because first they found out that they were not on the first 4 list. It was Clemson, Florida State, North Carolina, and Virginia. And I was really baffled. I was like, why Virginia over Miami? And people were saying, well, you know, they want a new state in Virginia. And Virginia is a good rival of North Carolina, so that would keep North Carolina happy. And I get all those excuses, but Miami is one of the biggest brands in the ACC. Personally, I think it should be Clemson, North Carolina, Florida State, and Miami next in line to join the SEC.
Now, of course, that whole Big Four, first four schools, or whatever that is, that's again, you know, a more mainstream media story that came down, and it was really just shit on the wall. No one really knows who the SEC would like to have when they have the ability to take ACC schools. The only thing you know that for real, just by using plain ordinary logic, is that Clemson and Florida State are a lock. The speculation about Miami, I don't know why they would take any other school over Miami. It doesn't make any sense at all. And that's when you know there's part of a story that's probably some bullshit. Probably those sources probably may have came from the UNC group, or maybe came from Florida, who doesn't really like Miami that much. Who knows? That's kind of, you can kind of tell sometimes where the sources definitely didn't come from anyone in the Miami camp. Let's put it that way.
But I'm not in control. They want those four brands over Miami. And there was a lot of excuses, but the biggest one was the recruiting. Well, if they bring in Miami to the SEC, then there goes the SEC advantage recruiting tool that the SEC teams can use when going head-to-head against Miami. Hey, you can play for Miami and stay at home, yes, or you can play for us and play in the SEC where we get guys to the NFL, and you'll get a lot of exposure and build your own brand.
Is it just me, or is that not really a valid excuse? I mean, does the ACC have trouble putting people into the NFL? No. NIL, I mean, Miami's an incredibly rich school. It may be a small private school, but it's the largest of the small private schools by far. Still probably one of the only ones that's a blue blood. It has tons of interest. They get really good ratings. They have no problem paying players, and you have no problem at all getting into the NFL from Miami, of all teams. I mean, if this is Tulsa, okay, you know, go the SEC.
Another thing that I heard was Florida just doesn't want to play Miami, and I looked it up. That's true. Ever since the early 90s, actually the late 80s, Florida has been trying to avoid scheduling Miami on a yearly basis.
Okay, well, you know, Texas A&M definitely didn't want Texas in the SEC, and that's kind of tough shit, isn't it? So,
and at first, I thought ESPN didn't have any plans for UCF.
Hold, what? What?
But now what I'm hearing is that ESPN actually wants UCF in the SEC. What?
When you have to say what like that, then you know the story's bullshit. And I'm sorry, the SEC is not taking UCF. All apologies to UCF. I am excited as hell for them to be in the Big 12. I think that's going to be awesome. But the SEC, no. Stop.
That kind of blew my mind. And one of the biggest reasons was UCF has a massive TV market and they have no NFL team. So apparently one thing that's working against Miami is that they have an NFL team, and the SEC doesn't want a market that has an NFL team.
Okay, then why did the SEC take Texas A&M? They share a market with the Houston Texans. Or what about LSU? They share a market with the New Orleans Saints. I know they're in Baton Rouge, but it's like DFW. They're right there next to each other. Same fan base. That doesn't freaking matter. It's fucking Miami.
And they're in the city of, let's see here, Orlando. Who else is in Orlando? Disney. What does Disney have anything to do with this? Well, Disney owns ESPN. Light bulb. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense, huh? I mean, last time I checked, Disneyland was in LA, and who just went to the Big Ten? Right to freaking Fox Sports. That would be USC and UCLA. Stop it. Nobody's taking UCF other than the Big 12. It's a great fit for UCF, not for the SEC. ESPN is not going to dictate to the SEC the schools that they want you to have. That's not going to happen. It's like, okay, fine, ESPN, don't bid on the SEC. Just stay out of it. Well, here comes NBC, here comes CBS, like a son of a bitch. Hell, maybe even Fox. Hell, we'll take the Big Ten and the SEC. That's fine. We got $40 billion for Fox Studios from Disney not too long ago. We got plenty of money to shove right up Disney's ass. So if ESPN wants to back off the SEC because they won't take UCF, you see where I'm going? You see how little sense that freaking makes at all? And look, I like this guy, all right? I bet anything he would be pretty damn fun at a backyard barbecue, right? Drinking some beer, eating some burgers, talking shit. Golden Blue Dude would probably be pretty fun to hang out with. But, you know, some of these takes, I understand they're coming from supposedly legit journalists and all that. Just, you got to recognize the sources that they're coming from. They got to squeeze out as much content as possible, especially on college realignment, because it's massive and the interest is massive. And so what that means is a lot of stories are just kind of bullshit. All right, because you got to have the content. Well, right now there's not enough content. There's not enough supply for the demand right now. So if you can't get the actual supply of real news, then you're going to come up with a little fake news, a little fun stories to entertain us dumbasses here lower on the totem pole. But you have to be able to kind of disseminate that crap. And I understand it's not easy to do. And look, Golden Blue Dude, he puts out a lot of videos. He likes to do that and really cover college football in West Virginia. So he's going to take more of those stories and run with them, right? And it kind of gets a little clickbaity to do that. And personally, I'm not going to do it. But then again, I don't focus on college football. I don't focus purely on sports of any kind. I'm kind of all around everywhere, right? So I make freaking content about everything that I'm interested in. And that's going to limit, of course, how many subscribers I have, which is like 400. Not to mention, I'm not like super talented and I haven't put in a super shit ton of money on this stuff. I just do it because I like to. That's it. And nothing against Golden Blue Dude, but it was a great example to show how a lot of the bullshit fake news about this topic is kind of rolling downhill to the smaller YouTubers, and then you kind of get a lot of horse shit that's easily debunked just with logic. Anyway, that's all I have on this crap. I'll be back with some other crap later. Bye.